Aloha. I wanted to do a quick video and kind of round up or complete this if it needs to be completed. If I need to do another video in the future that'll talk more about the importance of what I've been speaking about in these last videos, I will. But as of right now, it's feeling like it's winding down because people are starting to see where I'm coming from. And if you don't, then it's really on you to find your own path to where it is that you need to go next. It's not even up to me to do this right now. Like, I don't really need to be talking about this, but I feel guided to at least speak on these issues like this to expand even further how important it is to understand who and what we are, where we come from, what has happened up until this very moment where I'm speaking on this video right now at 8:52 a.m. on July 6th, 2016. These stories that we are addressing are all connected. Flat Earth, transhumanism, the Mandela effect, CERN, the scientist, the university system, the political game, the white supremacy program, the world in general. All of it is intertwined, and there is an order to this unraveling of things, both individually and collectively. Now, the individual unraveling is different for everybody. It is very different for everybody. Collectively, the unraveling of information is being orchestrated by the controllers and a psychological mindset that a lot of people won't be really focused on or even be aware of, because we can get so caught up in how great everything is. We can get so caught up in how, oh, well, at least it's unraveling, and not getting balled up and entangled even more. That's the game. That's the show that's being played, is to get you distracted and focused on what is so-called changing, and to fall into a storyline that is being played for you. There's a difference between going along with a storyline that's being played for you and understanding, understanding, and overstanding to the depths the entire books, all the entire library. Not reading just one book, but understanding the library, what kind of energy created the library. Are you in somebody else's library? Do you know how to read, like metaphorically? Do you know how to read? Like, what language are you reading in? All these different types of ways to approach your own expansion, and at the same time be aware of and not ignorant of the other programs that are going on. Because there's like I mentioned in the Unite and Conquer and the New Age agenda stuff that's going on, that is the shift. That is the program to get you caught up in, is to focus on just what is so-called good that is happening internally and externally, and sort of rationalize or pull some kind of prescription drug for the stuff that seems to be old or part of the old system. This is the main defense mechanism when I bring up racism and stuff. Like, oh, you're talking about old stuff. Things have changed now. Like, everything has changed. Okay, it's different. Like, you have to be like, we're all one. We're all this. Okay, see, that is the New Age program. That is the jump from just total shit and control to a happy-go-lucky shit and control. And that is where we are being herded and guided with the New Age agenda, the transhumanist movement, this new economic stuff that they're getting ready to roll out with, this artificial unity program that they're already rolling out. The point being is that nobody is addressing on the mainstream circuit on purpose, because it will unravel the control grid as a whole. They are not addressing. They won't address the library. They won't address the library of information, because in order to control people, you need to only focus on one storyline, one book. You need to read one book, and you need to be told, don't read any of these other books. Don't talk about this other stuff. Don't look into anything else. If you want to know about flat earth, you only need to be talking about the science and the math. And this is why I come down so hard on the flat earth, so-called flat earth communities. Because like I mentioned in other videos, in like the video before last, yes, this science and curvature math and all this stuff is important, but my point being is that the grander scale of what the flat earth represents in relation to what the globe earth has represented is far more important, far more critical to the actual life force energy of the human experience than trying to unravel or uncover or understand the science and math portions of the flat earth. The connection with the creator, the connection with the most high, the connection with a great spirit, the understanding of that experience is far more vibrant and connected and more it's a more holistic approach to understanding, 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 and overstanding the flat earth as a whole. The curvature stuff and the math and the science of flat earth, that's really just like an understanding. It doesn't go into like an understanding and an overstanding. That's kind of more of a better example to put it. And how I say it's related to recreating the same old patterns of the past is that when the so-called flat earth community does that, is that it's taking the old ways of approaching anything and it's repeating the same pattern by just really, because like I said, once you even start to understand the science and math of the flat earth, then you're really already just uncovering what has already been understood at one point in time. Nothing is new. This is what I'm saying. You spend all this time and energy talking about curvature and all this other stuff and clapping and laughing and being so happy about this stuff, when you're really just talking about what has already been understood, what is already known, and in one very obvious basis, very simple and basic, and will be understood regardless. It will be understood very soon on its own. And when you weigh it against the obvious spaces of, well, you know, the flat earth is connected to people realizing their connection to a creative intelligence. It's connected to the entire control grid. Like, to focus in for a moment, like an overstanding and what the overstanding and understanding and understanding means. The overstanding is with the flat earth. The overstanding is the globe model was created, or one example, it's not the whole thing, but it's a good example so you can see where I'm coming from, and then you can see where my emotion and my passion with approaching this so-called community is coming from. It's very, very, see, I never really thought about it from now, but there are 3 ways to approach that everybody is approaching the flat earth: the overstanding, understanding, and understanding. And so yeah, the first thing is the overstanding of a flat earth. For people coming into the flat earth, is that the globe model was created in order to set up a system of control and to set a certain group of individuals that is the white supremacy program in the university system, the political game, the control grid, the Christopher Columbus time frame, 1492, everything that shifted 500 years ago. All of this is connected. The overstanding of the flat earth, everything is that the control grid was activated in order to separate people from their creative intelligence, their nature, their connection to each other, the connection to understanding the indigenous cultures and the indigenous cosmologies, all of that stuff. That is the overstanding, the control grid as a whole, the psychological manipulation of the masses in order to get them separated from everything. In order for the university system, the disciplinary program of the public education system, and the foundation of the white supremacy program to be activated. That's why that globe model was created, in order to make heroes who have intellectual heroes, but that intellect is based upon a huge lie, and a very obvious one when you start to look into the flat earth stuff, at least uncovering how it's not the way they say it is. This is just what we're doing now. This stuff goes back 500 years. So if you're sitting in 1490 right now, if you're sitting in 1450 right now, and then you are understanding how the mindset of the control grid was back then, the king, the kings all over the place, the lords, all those people with those fancy names and those fancy wigs and those fancy robes who taxed the shit out of everybody and were lynching people and like doing all kinds of shit that they're still doing today, but in a more like medieval sort of program. If you sit in that time frame 500 years ago, then you can really, and just like soak it up right now and see how things were changing. See Christopher Columbus getting his mindset ready of how he was going to take over, how he was going to get in there and start killing people, how he was going to show up to them, what he needed to do when he realized that he fucked up and he can't go back. He can't sail back to Spain and talk to the king and tell everybody, I fucked up. He has to make something good out of that time frame, and that all that money they invested in his boats and his people to go over to wherever he was going. He can't say that he didn't make it to India. He can't say that he didn't make it where he needed to go. So they had to make do with what they got, with what they had, and they created a system of a systematic takeover that was built upon the religious installation, the religious control grid, which is another separation program where you can see where the indigenous people had their own connection to spirit. They had their own connection to nature. They had their own connection to each other. And then Christianity and Catholicism showed up and said, no, you are wrong. Just like the university system and the globe model said, no, you are wrong. It's the same program. So for the intellects who or a different group, can be categorized as a different group from the religious people, the people who would be controlled by intellect as opposed to faith-based with religion stuff, they installed and created the university system and the globe model and said, oh, you guys are looking at an old map, you guys are looking at old stuff, this is new, look, we got this, we got that, we know what's going on. This is the way the world is. And then it went back, and then they said, well, we need to own that land. We need to go. Well, like, what do we need to do? So they started installing that whole mindset with their fancy clothes and their fancy swords and their fancy shields and their shiny this and their shiny that, trading here, installing sicknesses, viruses, diseases at the same time, slowly setting the stage for the genocide and the massacres of the Americas. The Americas, from Canada all the way down to the tip of Argentina. The Americas, not the United States. That was the first. That was just where they landed onto the Taino people. They landed in Haiti and Dominican and Puerto Rico and all that. They landed there and then started doing all that stuff in the United States and started killing people and pushing all kinds of other stuff and creating storylines. That's what's happened at that time frame. So this is how far back this story goes, and this is where people don't really want to go into understanding how deep the flat earth model and even the transhumanism stuff and all that, all this stuff that we're talking about. Everybody's talking about like connection with the Pleiades and all this other stuff and the new age stuff. Yes, all this stuff has a time and place. That's my main point. There is a time and place for all this stuff to be addressed, but there is a definite order of events that needs to be understood, and if you don't understand them to the depths, you will get caught up in another control grid, because you are still existing in a state of ignorance. And that, even if it's a little crack of ignorance, that ignorance is a cancer, and it will grow bigger and overtake the system, whether 6 months from now or 5 years from now. If you don't address those gaps and those cancers, they will not go away. So this system as a whole is a giant cancer. The globe model is a giant cancer. White supremacy is a giant cancer. And we have to address it individually and collectively. So back to what I was saying before, the overstanding of the flat earth and even the technology and the transhumanism program, the university system, the public education system, the fiat currency system, the maritime law system, the prison industrial complex, the military industrial complex, all forms of the control grid lead back to, through the white supremacy program, through the globe model, through the colonial program, all the way back through our history, and without any degrees of separation. You can't separate them. You can't not remember that. You can't say this shit doesn't exist just because it makes you uncomfortable. That is my main point and why I bring this stuff up. People are only not wanting to talk about this because it makes them uncomfortable. That's at the essence of it. Because I don't have a problem talking with it. I'll stand out in front of 10 million people and say this shit. It doesn't fucking matter to me. Because I don't have a problem with it anymore. It used to affect me. It used to be like I used to have these deep emotions and all kinds of stuff. But now it's kind of just a thing that I've realized that has to be understood and cleared by the individual and the collective, And the only way we're going to do that is if we start to share information and understand how it's connected to everything, instead of linearly addressing it and just being angry or whatever and just focusing on the fact that it exists and, you know, we're helpless and hopeless in this whole situation. No, that's what the control grid wants. It wants you to be consciously distracted and subconsciously hopeless and helpless. And that's why people are uncomfortable with the program or understanding the system as a whole. So I mean to share information in order to help people break through that discomfort level simply by being aware of this stuff that it exists, and so they can open up to seeing what else is out there that is definitely a part of the inner program and the external program. So back to it, the overstanding of that, of the flat earth and transhumanism. I'm just using it for example because I specifically addressed the flat earth community and people have problems with that. Like, oh, you can't talk about Patricia Steer and she's doing a good thing and all this. I'm not addressing her specifically. I'm addressing the entire system as a whole. She's just out there like putting all these people who are in this distraction mode out there. It's just an example of this, and she's a grown ass woman, so she's not gonna be like breaking down all this other stuff. Like, and if she's listening to this, she knows where I'm coming from in some sense. So stop with all that fucking bullshit. That's just, there's more of a point to what I'm talking about than any individual perspectives like that. So, you know, whatever about all that. So anyway, the flat earth model and etc., the overstanding of that is the control grid, period. Very, very connected to the white supremacy program and the psyche of that. See, when I talk about the psyche of the white supremacy program, and I talk about the fact that people can't even get jobs right now still, that even goes into like when you asked a baby and you have these dolls, you have a black baby doll and a white baby doll in front of a baby, and you ask, which one's the good baby? And the child points towards the white baby. This is how far these programs go. They are into the child mind psyche. So if that child would say, oh, the white baby doll is the good baby doll, and that means the black baby doll is the bad baby doll. When a child has been programmed at 2, 3, 4, 5 years old to choose that, what the fuck do you think the adult has evolved that mindset to be? Well, here's an obvious proof. When I'm walking down the street, or anybody of melanated being walking down the street, in a community, people can understand that there are people that will cross the street. White people, or people who are in, I say white as the mindset, the psyche, the fearful mentality. One part of it is the fear-driven mentality, the psychological programmed mentality of, oh, something's wrong with them, they are the bad ones. That individual will cross the street to avoid conflict, to amplify the fear that they have within them. That is the white program. And it's more about the psyche, the mentality, than the race. It's not about the race. It's that the race is like the small part. That's like the understanding. That's like the flat earth only talk about the science and the math. I'm not addressing that. I'm talking about the inner space of it all, where it goes to childhood. The space where we don't even realize the subconscious programming, where we mostly don't even realize what the fuck is going on in our heads. When people are looking at people with sideways eyes, when people start to be fearful because somebody else stepped in the elevator with them, when people start to think that when somebody's walking around in a department store, if you're working in the department store, you automatically think that person's gonna steal something. This is a thing that is still happening today. So-called white people don't have to think about this stuff. That is white privilege right there. That is an energy that you don't have to worry about. That is part of white privilege. You don't have to live like that. You don't have to think like that. Your brain isn't wired like that. But our entire lives have to adjust to that mentality. You will never ever understand how deep that goes, because this has been happening since we were children. We've had to adjust our lives to external programs that have been created centuries ago in order to control the masses. This is why I say it's so important to categorize what it is, how we address what we're talking about. This psyche, this mentality, the colonial program, the flat earth, the globe model stuff that was created, it was more so created to control your psyche. So if you are caught up in the race game of just the external part, which I'm not coming from. When I talk about race, I'm not talking about that. Is way far down the line. I'm addressing the psyche of this. The external part is just what I get about talking about, because it catches people's attention and people get it. They're just like, oh, okay, I can see that. But at the innermost space, I'm really talking about the psychology of this program as a whole. That's how I related it to flat earth and everything else, and the colonial program as a whole. And if you haven't done that yet, then that's on you. And that can take an entire lifetime. So when people ask, well, I don't know what to do, what am I supposed to do? You just learn. Continually learn what you haven't understood, or overstood yet. Continue on that path of seeing how this program is created and how it exists, how it existed back then, and how it exists still in this moment. So back to, I keep getting off on tangents when I go back to it, but this is important. The overstanding of the entire, because it's my main point really, the overstanding of the entire system of control, which is the psyche of the globe model, the colonial program, the psychological white supremacy program, which holds up the Queen of England, the maritime admiralty law system, the fiat currency. Like slave masters are still on the money today. The queen is on the money today. What the fuck is a queen? Like she's all the way over there, and she's on the money in Australia. She's on the money in Canada. Her flag is in New Zealand. Her flag is in Hawaii. The American or the United States flag is in Guam and Samoa. Like these are no different than the military bases that are everywhere for people. These are energetic strongholds. So if these military bases are on all these places on the earth plane, the earth body, then they are also spread out like a cancer in your human body, in your human mind. These military bases, the military industrial complex, the colonial program is inside your mind, and they have a control over it. It is a mind control when that stuff exists like that. So the flat earth is not only about the sciences, that all this other stuff. That shit is all secondary. Like, we have to face this shit in order of what's the most obvious shit that's going on. So back to it, the overstanding of the program is that control grid. I spent that whole time expanding what the control grid is and how it connects directly to the flat earth for people who are having trouble with seeing that before. That is how it's connected. The overstanding of it is the control grid. The understanding of realizing the flat earth and even seeing like how fucked up the transhumanism program is, when people run in to say, well, they're telling you this is the next evolutionary step, is the transhumanism program, merging man with technology. When a human being sees that, reads that storyline and stops and says, wait a second, what the fuck is this? Even if they don't even look into any of the flat earth stuff, if they stop and they say, wait, that doesn't seem right, that doesn't seem natural, something is wrong with that, where does the Most High fit in any of this? When an individual does that, then they are questioning their entire reality. They are questioning the control grid as a whole, and they are at a juncture in their lives that will eventually go all the way to the top of understanding the control grid as a whole. And that comes from an understanding, an inner connection that says, hey, wait a minute, you need to start looking at what's going on and question these people who are guiding, so-called guiding your evolutionary life path. Stop for a minute. What else are they talking about? What else are they trying to... If they're trying to separate you through technology from source, from nature, from humanity, and lock you into a control grid with technology, if they're trying to do all that, what else are they connected to? What else are they doing? What else are we not aware of that is part of this separation program? And then that's when they can go into all the other stuff. This is why I come down so hard on CERN and all that other stuff, because they're the same fucking scientists that are creating all these other programs of control. No different than NASA. These are illusionists. Illusionists. They put illusions, smoke and mirrors in front of you, and then they glorify a story in order for you to fall into that story. And then you come out the other end thinking that you're well informed. You are well informed about one page in one book in the entire library of human experience. They constantly repeat one page of one book, keep you on one page of one book, hide all the other books, burn all the other books, and never talk about the library as a whole, or where that library exists, who or what energy created that library. No. You are to be focused only on one version of your reality. That's what the control grid is about. The understanding of the flat earth and all this other stuff I was talking about with the control grid. The understanding of it is your connection with your creator, with the Most High, with the Great Spirit, with God, whatever name label you place to the connected spirit that's existing inside of you, that you are, because this human body is just is a vessel for experience. But when you so-called die or pass or west, you are going. The you is going somewhere, just like the you came here through a vagina portal, and like, hey, this is a human experience. Oh, oh, time to go through the so-called death portal, which is just the westing program. The west, these are energetic directions that we are going in. Like inner and outer, expand and contract. So these energies, the fluctuations, the frequencies. So that is where the understanding program. You can spend an entire lifetime trying to understand what the inner program is, what the inner connection is. And some people, when they come into flat Earth, they'll go into understanding that, and that can be an entire lifetime, because you don't know who's doing what. Everybody's on different pages of their own book in their own library within the collective library. We don't know who's doing what and where. This is why it's so crucial to expand, never get so focused on one version of reality, which is the easiest part, is which I'm going into next, which is the understanding part, which is why it comes down so hard on this, is because you can get people caught up in one version of reality if you constantly repeat yourself and you create a system of focus, which is why I've zeroed in on the so-called flat earth community, because that system has been, it's a trend. It created a trend of focus that is very obvious to me and to a lot of other people, to where it is now being seen as it could be seen as a psychological operation of limitation, because it doesn't go any further than the science and math of all this stuff, and it won't go out of its own box of the understanding into the understanding and the overstanding of all this stuff, which are the actual airway blockages and the bleeds of this entire control grid and colonial program, and as the flat earth, they call the flat earth and the globe model control grid. Like, if you're only talking about the science and math, that's inherently and that is the trend. If you're only talking about the curvature and all this other stuff, then and it happens over and over and over and over and over and over again, and you only care about this and that, and you never go into I don't want to say never, because I know they do talk about, this stuff here and there, but my main point is that if the polarities are upside down and backwards, like I said, the bleeding of the globe model stuff that's out there is the overstanding. The airway blockages, or you can flip them there. Like the airway blockages could be like the suffocating of the globe model installation program, the control grid. That could be like the airway blockages. And then the understanding is like the bleeding, the blood. Like, people are bleeding out right now, literally dying every moment, because of this control grid and how it exists, directly connected to the white supremacy program, to the university system, to the fiat currency model, to the military industrial complex, to the prison industrial complex. Every time I snap my fingers, somebody is dying because of that program. And if we're just laughing and joking about, we've just discovered the flat earth, you haven't discovered shit. In fact, if you're only talking about the actual dirt and the curvature and all that other stuff, then you are missing the whole fucking point of that information that you've uncovered. You didn't create anything. So if people are suffocating and bleeding right now, and you're focusing on flesh wounds, which is the understanding of it, you're focusing on scratches and rashes, little tiny burns on the skin. You're focusing on a fucking rolling your ankle, having like a sprained ankle. That is where the focus of this whole science and all this other stuff is. Like, no, you're talking about your sprained ankle when your brothers and sisters to your left and right are being suffocated and bleeding. Every fucking moment that you spend being distracted by the physicality of the flat earth model, every single moment you spend being distracted by it, you're wasting a moment of being able to help somebody else get out of that program, or help somebody else think further into understanding a way to get out, or help somebody get out of that space individually and collectively. So that's why it hit a critical mass for me, to where I was like, well, these people have had long enough. I myself have been aware of this so-called flat earth community for some months now. So for me to see them, first discover them to this, from those months ago to this moment today, and see that they're still repeating the same shit over and over again, then yes, now I have given them enough time to shift the gears. It has never happened. Now, that is based upon my perspective on them shifting gears, and not having an expectation on them, but having an expectation on me and how I get involved in this so-called flat earth community, because I am also out there sharing information that is definitely connected to what they are talking about. So this is an expectation on myself. Am I going to say anything about this because I am aware of this of myself? And these are people who call themselves open to communication, open to sharing information, open to so-called truth, open to all this other stuff. But as soon as you start saying things that are uncomfortable, hey, no, we're going to block you, we're going to remove you, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, that's just a little too far. We can talk about aliens and the cabal and reptilians and 1984 and the Orwellian program. We can talk about all this other stuff, but as soon as you start talking about race, hey, you're stepping over the line now. Did you say white supremacy? Did you say white privilege? Hey, you're going a little too close to home now. Like, that's a little too deep right now. There's something systematically fucking wrong with that. If you can't talk about everything, then that's just a generic version of truth. And I mean everything in relation to the collective everything. We have to start addressing, if it's not being addressed, then you are being more part of, over time, you are being more part of the problem than you are of the helping people. This is why I said it reached that critical mass for me, to where now I can say, well, if I don't say anything, then I'm a part of the problem. If I don't say anything, the person that I am, how I was raised, where I came from, this is what we talk about. This is how we talk. This is how we go about addressing things like this. I grew up in the Bay Area, born in that soil, in those roots, in Oakland. This is where I'm coming from. The Black Panthers came out of there, the Brown Berets, like all of these revolutionary things. Even the Occupy movement didn't really set off until the OPD came and started throwing flashbang grenades and tear gas at Occupy Oakland, after we had already set up a community on the city hall front lawn. And then that night, that shit got televised all the way out in Egypt, where people in Egypt, Occupy Egypt, was in solidarity with Occupy Oakland. This is how, like, this shit pops off real quick. This is where my family comes from. This is where my blood comes from. So I can't sit around and just allow shit to happen like that. It's in how I am, like in who I am. And people who are from the Bay Area, people specifically from Oakland, know what I'm talking about. So, and this is outside of the whole manipulated side of the Occupy. No, I'm talking about the actual people who showed up in Oakland to Occupy Oakland. The innocent ones who are just about, change and talking about information and shit that's going on. The people who showed up to see what was going on. And then once they realized that the shit was being systematically funneled into some kind of manipulated format, then they went about and started doing their own thing in their own way and started researching or sharing information in their own way in their own style. The people who needed a structure and a control grid like that, they stayed in that program and stayed in that format, which is all needed in their own way. And to expand it even further, they utilize that mentality in order to sell a bigger agenda. That's what I'm saying. If you get caught up only in the program, the structure, the one page of the one book of the program that's going on as a whole, then you will be caught up into another system, another program that is not for your benefit. You are being caught up in a control grid as a whole. So that was just an example of, you know, it is an example of, I don't even got to explain it. So the understanding is the connection to your creator, your source. The overstanding is the understanding of the control grid, how it's connected to colonialism, white supremacy. And it goes, I only say white supremacy right now because it goes further than that. It goes far beyond that. But like I said, I keep saying it, you have to go in order. And it's not just like, oh, I see that it exists and that's it. No, you have to, it's an entire study. It could take years to see how, like Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she spent her entire life explaining and understanding what the white supremacy program is all about and how it affects people. Not just so-called black people or melanated people. Everybody. So it takes a long time to see what this stuff is connected to. So it's not a little thing. The psyche that we have that says, oh, well, I understand it now. No, it takes a long time to understand this stuff and to unravel it. So that is the understanding separation, which is the separation from your great spirit, your source, your connection to creator, creative intelligence. That is also locked in with the flat earth. So the understanding of the flat earth stuff and all these other agendas out there is the actual like news programs that are out there. So the flat earth community is like the news program for flat earth. They only talk about or not only, but their main energetic focus is the curvature, the science, basically the physical reality space of the flat earth. There's nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is that, and what I said in the video that got so many people kind of angry, is that these people in this flat earth community are intellectually gifted. They are smart. They have the ability to go further than just this same repetition program of let's just talk about curvature and this and that. And I can say that now because I've been observing this space for some months now. Now, what I'm saying is that the passion comes from behind that, because and the non-expectation for them, but for me mostly to say something about it, comes from the passion comes from the fact that if you continually talk about one version of reality and don't at least help people open the door to what else is connected to, obviously, like the stuff that I've been mentioning, then you are a part of the problem. You are a part of the problem after a certain amount of time, because you have a following. You have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 people tuning into your shit. You are creating a mind space that says this is what's important, because you are now the intellectual whatever. You're the one that's out there saying this is what we need to talk about. And not saying that, you know, you're supposed to be talking about all this and other stuff, but what I'm saying is that it needs to be at least the door needs to be opened. And if you don't, like this is a prime example. When I started talking about white supremacy, that door is obviously shut for a lot of people. People are just like, no, not going to talk about it, not going to listen. That guy's crazy. Something's wrong. I'm going to unsubscribe. That's not my fucking problem. This is stuff that exists. I am only speaking about things that exist that are very important. Very fucking important. So, and you can go into a shallow understanding, a deeper understanding, and a deeper overstanding of this stuff. Not saying that it's required for you, but there are there are different levels of involvement that you can go into to start going in. But if the door is just fucking closed, that is another thing altogether. This is why I'm doing this video right now, is because I realize that that door is still shut. And that door being shut is going into the deep psychology of the supremacy program that goes back centuries ago, down into and an example is to the subconscious program of a little child choosing the white baby over the black baby, saying that's the good baby and that's the bad baby. This is where I'm coming from. This is why I bring this stuff up, is because that is actually suffocating people right now. That is actually these are bleeds right now. People are bleeding because of this, and it is very, very directly related to the flat earth. And because you are calibrated to not offend people, because you are calibrated to not lose subscribers, because you are calibrated to be nice, whatever the fuck that means, because you are calibrated to not offend, to be politically correct, to not rock the boat, to stay in your little box of whatever, which is nothing wrong. Like I said, this is not an expectation on anybody. This is to plant seeds of obviousness that will eventually be addressed. They will eventually be addressed. And my point is, the sooner we address this shit, the sooner we start to clear this emotional baggage that we have, the control grids that we have internally and externally for ourselves, especially when you have a big ass following like these channels do. As soon as we start to do this for ourselves, the sooner people will start to be able to do this collectively in a massive scale. That is my main point for these videos. Period. That's it. For these recent videos, so people can see that stuff and see that this is not an attack on any individual or any group or any channel. This is an expansion of the conversation as a whole. And I wanted to play a part of this video so you can see and listen to where I'm coming from, to see how far this goes from Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's perspective on racism and how deep it goes. So this is just one version, one little clip that, and I haven't seen this in a while, but I know like right around here is where she starts getting in details of it, in the depths of it. But like I said, this is the psyche. I'm talking about the psyche of this whole program that we are a part of. If you're just talking about the blocks and the circles of the flat earth or conspiracies or truth or anything or everything like that, if you're just doing that and you have a following, then you're actually holding people back, because you're not, only because you don't want to offend people, or only because you don't want to challenge yourself to go further, only because a lot of the times people are just fucking scared. They're scared of being not liked. They're scared of losing subscribers. They're scared of going into themselves. That's the main thing. People are really afraid of going into themselves and finding out what's in there. And even further outside of that is people will lose stuff. People lose white privilege. That the fact that if you go into understanding white supremacy, then you start to feel a certain way about yourself. You start to feel a certain way about white privilege and what's happened. You start to feel a certain way about things. And that's uncomfortable, and people don't want to go there. That is at the foundation of a lot of this stuff, subconsciously, that people can't convert to the conscious space and they just block it. That is why the door is closed. But that door is forever closed for melanated people. That door is being slammed on people's hands and necks and heads. Babies' bodies are being slammed on that door. That door is being slammed on them on a regular basis. When we're born, a brand new baby coming into this world, a brand new melanated baby born right now in this moment is already seen as a fucking problem in the eyes of the control grid, the white supremacy program. And this is just the surface layer stuff of the control grid as a whole. I know people can go into like the soul, the alien agenda, all the new age and the metaphysical interdimensional programs and understandings of things. I know that stuff exists. What I'm saying is that you can't just jump from chapter 1 to chapter 10. You have to understand chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 to the depths. Otherwise, somebody will create another program or another story or another book in between you reading those chapters, and you'll just be caught up in another fucking program. If you jump, because that is the intent of the distraction grid as a whole, is to do that, is to make you jump from this to this and don't look at all this other stuff because they don't want to be held accountable. Once you start to unravel this information individually, it'll start to make the collective storyline, the whole library, look more obvious. And that takes work. It takes time. It takes humility. It takes you losing a lot of things. Like, I don't have a lot of friends that I've had. I don't have a lot of friends, period. Like, I don't have a lot of acquaintances or affiliates or anything, because you start to lose a lot of stuff when you start to go into these spaces. It's a lonely road overall, because not everybody is on the same sheet of music. Not everybody is on the same freeway. We're all going at this at different times and different angles, and if you just want to be safe, then you can stay in the car with somebody else, or you can stay in the traffic jam with everybody else and just be like, yeah, we're getting there. People can fly though, so there's people that could be flying if they were allowed to open that door that these so-called truthers are uncomfortable with opening, only because of their own internal stuff. And I'm spreading this information, sharing these possibilities with people so they can not be afraid anymore to open those doors, and also help other people open those doors. And Dr. Frances Cress Welsing is one of the people in these past decades who's been doing this. And I just use her as one reference. There's so many other people out there. You can check out this hieroglyphics playlist that I have on this channel, or any and just go from one person to another. Listen to what they're talking about. Listen to who they've been talking to. Listen to who they've been reading, and then just follow that trail. Just keep whatever stands out to you. Pick one thing, take one thing at a time. Don't get overwhelmed. So for people who are asking, what do we do? Do you. Do you. What interests you? What is your imagination? What is your curiosity? Do you. And as long as you do you, you'll be doing the most high spirit. You'll be doing the most high, whatever it is. You'll eventually lead yourself back to yourself, your original self. Not the control grid, fear-ridden, bogus idea of yourself, the whatever self. No, the original space. We have to understand who the people are on this planet. Who are the so-called white-skinned people, or Caucasoid people? Who are the so-called black people? Who are the Taino people? Who are the the Native Americans who are like, what is the medicine wheel? What are the four corners? What is people who use that map? What does that stuff mean spiritually? What does that mean metaphorically? What does that mean physically? Like, what does all this stuff mean? And then that's how you can do it, whatever it is, like just to yourself. So I'll end it with playing this last part. This is Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. I forgot what she's talking about, but it's important. So,
but I started raising the question. Psychiatrists always, old school psychiatrists, I say new school psychiatrists, are just supposed to, oh, you're depressed? Well, let me write a prescription. You see, oh, you're anxious? Let me write a prescription and goodbye. I'll see you next time for another 15 minutes. I'm old school. I see all my patients for 1 hour. I believe that you have to talk to people and understand and then help them understand so that they can graduate from the psychiatrist and go forward because they now understand reality in a different way. So I started saying, well, why? If indeed, and I say racism as a dynamic, racism as white supremacy has been the reality that black people all over this planet have faced for the last 500 years. There's never been a moment, there's never been a minute, there's never been a day, there's never been a week where we have not been confronted with racism, white supremacy as a system. Never a half a minute. So I said, well, why would such a system be developed? And Mr. Fuller used to say to me, Francis, it's not important why, just learn what the system is. But, you know, the psychiatrist in me, I've got to understand why. See, that's where little children are brilliant. Little 2-year-old people, little 3-year-old people, they start saying, why? Why? You know, and older people get annoyed, shut up. But don't ever tell a child. If a child is saying, why, mommy? Why, granny? Why? You may not know the answer. Just tell the child, I don't know the answer, but I'll try to find out for you. And if I don't find out and you study and learn, you'll find out. But the question why is what turns on the brain computer. The child is asking about cause and effect. And if you can begin to understand cause and effect, you begin to get a handle on dealing with reality. So I raised the question, well, why this reality of racism? As I said, my grandfather died in 1909. And he's talking about the problem of color. Dr. Du Bois talked about it in 1903. Every black person that has been of significance to black people has tried to grapple with what was happening, what was causing us to be oppressed, and raising issues or raising discussion about it. So I tell people, mind you, I have a question in the back of my brain computer. Why would they do it? And I was actually in my kitchen cooking hands in dishwater. And the computer came with the answer. And what I started thinking about was things that were said within the system. Number one, the system said that we, as people of color, were minorities. And the other emphasis that was even greater than the factor, the numerical factor, was that we were supposed to be genetically inferior to people who classified themselves as white. Now I say spend as much time in school as you can. Spend as much time in the libraries as you can. Spend as much time in bookstores as you can. Reading, repeat after me, reading is more important than watching TV. Reading is more important than watching TV. See, everything is in books. Everything is in books. And I say beware of these little small things that you can hold in your hand where you think you're getting as much information as if you're holding a book. Just beware. So with all of the reading and all of the going to school that I had done, I said, wait a minute. People of color on this planet are the overwhelming majority. Black, brown, red, and yellow people are 9/10 majority on this planet. The other thing, that we are supposed to be genetically inferior, and I said, well, wait a minute. See, in my mind, I'm talking to wait a minute. Black people, people of color, are genetically dominant in terms of skin coloration compared to people who classify themselves as white. And I said, I've got it. Just like that, standing in the kitchen, cooking, hands in the dishwater. I said, this is the answer. So let me put it on the board. See if you all can see this. Let's say this is the planet Earth. Can you all see? Okay. So 9/10 of the people are black, brown, red, and yellow. 1/10 of the people have white skin. Instead of the people being genetically inferior, the people who can produce the black pigment melanin are genetically dominant. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you haven't taken a course in genetics, just look at our president, Barack Obama. The president's mother is white. His father is black. Because the ability to produce that black pigment is dominant, and the inability is a recessive genetic trait. So black plus white could only produce black. Are you all with me? So I said, now what am I doing? Let's say that this is planet Earth and this is Europe. And this is 1492. And Columbus started European people coming out and moving, little boats coming out of Europe, beginning to circumnavigate the planet. Every place these white gentlemen landed, they found colored people. Colored people everywhere.
I'm going to play this second part because, well, not the whole thing, just like the little parts where she gets to her point, because it's important, and it just kind of balls everything together. I kind of mentioned it before, but coming from her, it's like this is it. So it's a big part of this whole entire understanding of everything I referenced in the video before.
If the people extended their hospitality to sexual relations, and the men waited around 9 months for their boats to get repaired, they realized that all of the people were not only colored, but all of the babies that came about would be colored babies, President Obama being an example. So I maintain they didn't have to have a big conference hall, big church, but they realized if everybody is colored and everybody is genetically dominant, unless we control all of these people,
the control grid,
these men might get in boats. And start going from south to north. And maybe at that time they were even aware that the white women said their ideal mate was tall and dark. So they realized, I maintain at that point, that white could disappear. That white could disappear on this planet unless they control. And we all grow up learning. Black people learn this before they learn how to read. If you are black, what class? Get back. If you are brown, stick around. If you're yellow, you're mellow. And if you're white, you're all right. Now I can say this.
black, stay back. Brown, stick around. Yellow, you're mellow. White, you all right. That is the mentality that's going on right now. To this day. This is the control grid that's going on. And this is just one chapter of the entire book within the entire library of control and misunderstandings that has been going on in the bigger library of existence. And if you don't understand how these books, these chapters, these pages are written, then you will fall into another trap of distraction, which is the new age version of love and light. We're all one, we're all this, we're all that. If you don't know, I know this, what she was just referenced right now, I know this is new for a lot of people. People haven't seen this perspective, because this was new for me a couple years ago when I was just like realizing how deep this program was. So I know this is new for a lot of people, and it changes a lot of the way that we envision ourselves and see the system as a whole. And this is why I bring this mentality into specifically the flat earth community, because of what the globe model control grid is connected to as a whole, as far as psychologically manipulating people to feel, think, and act a certain way. So when the door gets shut on an individual because they want to bring back a part of the chapter that some people are uncomfortable about, that is a problem. When it's not even opened by people who have a following that are talking about so-called truth and understanding and all this stuff, and you are only talking about flesh wounds, you are not talking about the suffocating, you're not talking about the arterial bleeds that are going on right now. If you're not talking about that, then yes, there is a problem. Over time, I can see if you're just innocent of not understanding how it fits in, I can see that. That's where I assume the majority of these individuals on these channels, including Patricia Steer, are. They don't understand these steps. They didn't know this stuff existed this way, or how it fits in the whole program as far as orders of approach or whatever. I know that. That's why it's not an attack. But now that this information is out there, then it is something that we need to be seeing as far as the entire process goes. You can't call yourself a truther or talking about truth or anything like that if you only talk about the commercials. Flat Earth science and math is just the commercial of the entire globe model control grid. Time is up for the commercials. It's been up because people have been dying because of these control grids as a whole. To this day, still in this moment. So I'll leave it there. it's pretty much what I wanted to explain as far as the inner over and understanding of, this whole system, and just expand upon what I talked about in the last couple of videos, and move into whatever's next. I don't know what I'm going to be talking about next. But that's it. So thank you for joining me. Until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.